Forget it. Stop writing. Wait until you want to write.
Welcome to Living a Life Through Books. I'm your host, Dr. Shahnaz Ahmed, and thank you for joining us. For this series of author conversations, we are talking with Andrew Segal, the author of the upcoming murder mystery, The Lyme Regis Murders. This is part 3. A bit about Andrew. He started off as an accountant, eventually specializing in insolvency. He says it's a people-oriented occupation and a source of innumerable anecdotes. His writing over the past 30 years has been somewhat eclectic, with children's books, horror stories, and thrillers to date. The Lyme Regis Murders is his first foray into murder mysteries. So with all that said, here's Andrew Segal, author of The Lyme Regis Murders. So tell me about your publishing adventures. So I know you...
Publishing adventures...
Okay. With the book, once you get a book, what do you do?
Well, with The Lyme Regis Murders, I'd met Claire, who is brilliant. She's very, very clever. She's very focused. She's absolutely terrific. And she said she'd like to publish The Lyme Regis. She'd read it and she liked it. And I've had loads of people read it and come back. In fact, one of our friends in the States said, I was up all night reading. She said, I couldn't put it down.
Right.
So publishing adventures, that... Hand of Pork in the London magazine. Oh, earlier this year, Claire said to me, I'm going to send 4 of your short stories to the Lady magazine. Now, the Lady magazine is really what is described as middle class, middle-aged, mainly female readership. But in fact, having read it, it's not just that. It's an intelligent magazine. It's been going since 1880 or 1890. I said, okay, don't send them my stories. They'll be horrified. I mean, what? Death Zone, License to Kill.
Right.
Well, she sent them 4 horror. They don't want that. Anyway, she sent them 4 horror stories.
Okay.
And they came back within 24 hours saying, not for our readers, but very gripping. They like them. So Claire said, have you got anything which hasn't got blood in it and murders and whatnot? So I said, yeah. So we said, I trimmed an 1,800-word short story down to 1,300 words, and we sent them Fondest Love. Which they published in January of this year and illustrated. So here we have the magazine. And here we have the story with its illustration.
Okay. So
that's terrific. So we sent them another one. Probably the only 2 stories I've written in 30 years where there isn't a death or a murder. And they said they like it as well. I mean, there's such a wide variety of ways that you can love people or be loved. And I thought it's not just us when we're young. It's us when we're middle-aged. It's us when we're old. I remember my aunt once saying to me, you love different people in different ways. The way you love your children is the way you love your spouse. The way you love a spouse isn't the way you love your parents. I thought it was such a sweet thing to say. So the story I've just sent, or Claire has just sent, Lavender Roses, is, again, very different. So they're only 1,300 words. You can read them in 10 or 15 minutes. But I like it. If I get moved at the end of a short story, my own short stories, if I get or the longer stories, when I got to the end of the Lyme Regis Murders, I thought, oh, wow, yes, that works. That's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Great feeling.
Tell me something for my listeners. My listeners are readers, they're writers.
Yeah.
Something to inspire them to read more and to write more.
Okay. When it comes to reading, I can only repeat again what my intelligent mentor, my wife, who was a reader long before I was anyway. And her comment is, when it comes to kids, adults, anyone, read if you want to, and read and read and read. Read anything. Read comics, read your newspapers, reference books, novels, rubbish, the words on the side of your cornflakes packet. Keep reading, and you will eventually find the genre that suits you. You may find that with me, there's loads of stuff that I like, as you've probably gathered by now.
Right.
But you might decide you like classics, you like love stories, you like murder mystery, whatever. But keep reading. And when it comes to writing, I joined one writers group years ago, and one of the aspiring young writers said, I write 1,000 words a day. I said, why? So I must write 1,000 words a day. I said, what's the point? So I need to keep my hand up. So are you enjoying it? No, but it's a job to be done. Forget it. Stop writing. Wait until you want to write. I've had people say to me, when do you find the time? When are you inspired? How can you possibly? I'm going to write one day. I said, well, You will write one day if and when you choose to. But I am a full-time professional insolvency practitioner. I go to maybe 3 or 4 breakfast networking meetings a week. I'm up at 5 o'clock, leave home at 6 o'clock. Then I go to work. I get home at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I haven't got time to write. How can I possibly write? Well, I can. How? Because I want to. I make the time. If I wake up at 2 in the morning because I can't sleep, I may write. Weekends, I may write. So if you want to write and you feel the inspiration, just do it. The Nike, just do it. What is it?
Right.
Someone said Nike means victory. Well, fine, victory. Just do it.
Right. No. I actually, one of my first conversations and interviews was with a debut author, and she had gotten her book out. When I asked her about writing, she talked about a book by Stephen King.
Yes.
On writing. I have not read this book yet.
Yeah.
But she said Stephen King, the American horror specialist, he suggests to do the 1,000 words or 1,500 words a day.
Yeah.
And just keep going at it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
no formula.
There's no formula. There's no.
That's right. There's no fixed set of rules. It's what suits you. And what suited this guy wasn't doing 1,000 words a day. It was pointless. But where Stephen King is concerned, he's a natural writer. He loves writing. So for him, it's not so much a discipline. It's just that I will get on with it because I like doing it. It's what I do. So fine. In that sort of situation, it suits him. Mm-hmm. If anyone says to me, what's the secret? There is no secret. You can even get your punctuation wrong, your paragraphing wrong. If it works, it works. Clearly, there are certain rules that will help you. Describe the character. Don't just say he was handsome. Why? He was 6'3", had dark hair, dimple in his chin. Give us some description. Show, don't tell, is the usual rule. But other than that, if it works, it works.
Mm-hmm. What point of view do you like, and what do you think works best? I see you don't take a first-person point of view. This is not an I did this. It's always Tammy Pierce did this, or, there was Dove Jordan. Yeah.
I prefer writing in the third person.
Right.
I'm a Gigo's first person. I'm a contract killer's first person. But most of my stuff is third person. Mm-hmm. I just prefer it that way. I think that you've got more room for maneuver. If you are first person, then you've got to be wherever the action is all the time. Now, I've seen some authors who manage to get out of first person, chapter by chapter, go from first to third and back to first again. I can't think of any names offhand, but I've seen it done, and it can be done. But as a rule, I think first person is okay. It's what suits the author. For me, as a rule, third person is best.
Okay. And, you talked about an author switching from first person to third person.
Yes.
Is there something that says, well, if I'm going to write a book and I'm going to do first person, would you tell me, you know what, keep it to first person throughout the book, but if you start with third person, just keep it third person throughout the book? Or it's like if you're a really good author, then you can switch between first person and third person between chapters. Yes. Do you feel that way? Or
again, whatever works. As I said, I've read one or two it's not dodging the issue. I've read one or two authors where they've managed to do the switch and they've done it so seamlessly that you hardly noticed it. You say, oh my gosh, we're back in first person again. It gives them the scope to give you the protagonist's feelings all the time, but then to see what's happening elsewhere without him having to be there or her having to be there saying what's going on. Mm-hmm. That's quite a neat ploy. It's quite a neat way of doing it. I haven't tried it, but it has worked on the couple that I've read. So again, no rules. No rules.
No rules. Just write when you feel like it.
Oh yeah, unquestionably. Dickens wrote almost every day. He walked 10 or 15 miles every day, burned himself out because he did writing, produced 10 children, had an affair on the side. He was acting. He went to the States a couple of times. What was he, 57 when he died? Burned out. They told him to ease up, but with that amount of energy and drive, it's like putting a Formula One engine in a small family car. The car burns out, the engine's still there. Well, he burned out. The engine was still going, but he was dead.
Right. Oh my goodness. Do you have any pet peeves of writing?
Any
pet peeves, things that are annoying about writing for you or for others?
Only, I suppose. being interrupted. I can sometimes, I can sit here at the desk and write, or I can sit upstairs in bed the way Proust did with a laptop. He didn't have a laptop, but tapping away. But interruptions are probably the main peeve, the main pet peeve, if you like. Another short story, Promenade of Mirrors. I was looking for continuity, a couple who were up against each other, and I wanted them to be cloned and recloned and recloned. It worked, but it was quite complicated to make it work. Interruptions there would have been quite maddening. Other than that, other than interruptions, no other peeves I can think of.
Okay. Very, very cool. And do you have any writing quirks? I know you're sitting where you're writing right now. This is where you write. Yeah. Is it like, I can only write here? I knew a friend of mine writes in the bars and writes in airports. He's traveling all the time. He's like, I went to the bar and I was just writing.
Yeah, I understand. Well, J.K. Rowling was a single mother, and she used to go to the local cafe and sit there writing. You know, she wrote the first Harry Potter that way.
Yes.
No particular quirk. I like to be as comfortable as possible. Obviously.
Yes.
If I'm writing in bed, late evening, my wife's lying next to me, she's reading, I'm writing. That's nice. It's nice and comfortable. You know, we're together. I'm not shut away in a room. Some authors, I think, Roald Dahl used to go to a shed at the bottom of his garden to write, which is fine. Some people need to be alone. I don't. If I'm in the middle of something and it's working, then the interruptions won't bother too much. But if it is complicated, interruptions are a nuisance. I've got no other particular superstitions. I like to see a clear run if possible. So I may write evenings or in the middle of the night if I'm working on an idea and it's going along quite well, but I've got to stop and get some sleep. Otherwise, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, then if there's lots to do, we're seeing friends, we're doing this, we're doing that, then I won't pick up the laptop because I know that I may be in the middle of something. It's flowing really well. I've got to stop now. So I like to see a clear run if possible. Even if I only write half the day. If the whole day is clear, I can write for the half day. So if that's a quirk, that's a quirk.
No. Everybody, I mean, for me, I need a cup of tea. I absolutely.
Aha. Oh, yes. We have to have mugs of tea or coffee.
Yes. Earl Grey, preferably.
Sorry?
Earl Grey, preferably.
Oh, you like Earl Grey too? Yeah. Without milk. Some people I know have it with milk. It's spoiling it somewhat. Earl Grey without milk is better, really.
Well, tea, I'm from India, so I can have chai tea with milk. I can have tea without milk. Just give me tea, please. It's like, give me tea and nobody gets murdered.
That's good.
What do you want your readers to remember? This is a two-part question. What do you want your readers to remember about the books that they are reading? And also, what do you want your legacy to be with your readers?
It's a toughie. If they remember the characters I've written, like Tammy, that's good. I suppose the idea of being, if that's the right word, an eclectic writer, a writer of horror, children's, thrillers, that in itself would be an accolade if people remembered me for that. I suppose, like any other author, you want to be thought of favourably. Now, I'm not Evelyn Waugh, I'm not Tolstoy, and I don't pretend that I am. But if people remember and say, yeah, it was a damn good read, that's good. That's nice. There's a great film with Candice Bergen, and I forget who the other. Well, they're both authors. I thought it was a great idea because one has written loads of potboilers, loads and loads of hit books, but they're rubbish. But she enjoys it. And the other one has written. Candice Bergen, I think, is the author who's written one fantastic bestseller, which has been well reviewed now, and now she's blocked. And someone said, which would you rather be? The person who's written one fantastic book, I can't think of anything else to write, or the one who's written loads of books, which are not brilliant, but they're great reads. I go for the great reads because I like writing. And if people say that was a great read, that's brilliant. That's enough. And I know the Beads of Blood. I know you won't have read anything like it. I know that. It's not just horror. It's also black humour, very dark humour.
Okay. Yeah, that's... So I don't read scary genres in general. I don't read thrillers, and I'm more of a... Have you heard of A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Backman? It's one of the... it's a modern story, and
Yeah.
it's funny, and it's about this older, mature gentleman
Yeah.
who, throughout the book, is just trying to commit suicide. And
God.
while you think the first time he tries to commit suicide, you would think it's so serious, but as the book progresses, you're just laughing. I remember coming home and telling my husband, "Oh, Uwe tried to commit suicide again." And he's like, "What did he do now?" And it's just,
I love it. I love it.
yes,
I love it. Well,
yeah.
that's as off the wall as my stuff. And my stuff is not really too. It's not too grotesque. It should either give you a smile or pause for thought. And if you've got a Kindle or whatever else, get Beads. What is it, 99 pence or something? Let me know what you think. You will find Gigolo very amusing. I promise you.
Okay.
Hand of Pork is a little more macabre. In his own image is possibly macabre as well. A perfect match. That's really, really dark humour. I reread it and it made me laugh. It really made me laugh. Oh, Pretty Boy. That's based on a comment made by an English journalist who'd been taken prisoner in North Vietnam, and he'd been beaten and he'd been starved and he'd been stuck in solitary confinement. He'd been there for months and months and months. A terrible, terrible time. And he was an English public school boy, educated, well-spoken. And when they eventually got him out, they said to him, it must have been terrible. What was it like being captive for all those years, all those months rather? He said, well, to tell the truth, it was no worse than being in an English public school.
Oh.
Well, English public schools today are much easier, but they used to be horrific.
And that's it for this episode of Author Conversations with Andrew Segal. Part 4, the final part, is coming soon. Stay tuned. You can reach me through Facebook or Instagram at Living a Life Through Books. If you found this episode or any of my previous episodes enjoyable, please take a moment to write me a review. A review on Apple Podcasts goes a long way, so I thank you in advance for it. You can also reach me through ShahnazAhmed.com. That is ShahnazAhmed.com. My website and logo was designed by Alia Rahman. She's a St. Louis-based graphic designer and surreal artist. You can contact her for all your art and web design needs at aliarahman.com. That is AALIARAHMAN.com. My starting and ending music for this and all my previous episodes was composed by my husband, Brad Slavic. That's it for this episode. I'm Dr. Shahnaz Ahmed with Living a Life Through Books, signing off. Remember to water the seeds within you. It's time